right, welcome to episode 1 of podcast with Coach Glossop. We got none other than Greg Hire on the show. Greg, how you feeling, man?
Good, man. We finally got there, right? It's been a long time coming. So, obviously some minor hiccups and due to unfortunate circumstances that are arising in the world, but we got there. Persistence is key, right? So, I'm excited, man. It'll be fun.
Yeah. No. So for those that don't know, obviously we're streaming this from across the city. Greg's at home due to the coronavirus, so we're just making sure we do our part and staying with that social distancing. How's it affected you, Greg? Just as obviously it's a topic we'll just kind of spend a little bit of time on, not too long.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting landscape, right? I don't think it's something that, as much as, especially in the world that I live in terms of my passion, mental health and well-being, I spend a considerable amount of time, whether it's schools, corporations, businesses, sporting clubs, to try and increase your resilience levels and your grit levels and whatever it may be. But I can be honest and say that even I've struggled at these times, and I think you hear that word unprecedented, and I think you can't go by it. It's abnormal. I don't think one person, Jerry Norman, the owner of Harvey Norman, has been impacted by it in some way, whether that's impacted directly, financially, or peers or friends. It's the magnitude is crazy, and not only is it now, I think it's unfortunately only going to get worse before it gets better, and it's going to be something that even I've discussed at a charity level, PTSD, for 12 to 18 months, because there's massive ramifications. Social isolation is an issue, financial implications, and the stress that comes with that, the anxiety. This is something that, look at yourself. No one's really ever lived through it, Only a month ago or 3 weeks ago, you sort of have a laugh and go, oh, look, that's not going to really go. I remember I was joking around with my wife the other night. I was supposed to go to Japan for a 3-on-3 tournament just as this was like kicking off. And I was just like, I'm going. Like, it's not a big thing. And now a month ago, we're doing a podcast because of it, So, like obviously doing a podcast, but we're in separate rooms, It's craziness. And it's a tough time, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, even before this came through, when I was thinking about the first episode, you came to mind for a whole bunch of reasons, and which we'll talk about throughout this episode. But I think now it's probably going to be a more relevant conversation than ever with what you do with the Stitch in Time. So, so obviously, like locally, everyone admires you and looks up to you, not just what you did as an athlete on the court, but what you've gone and done since then, and as a father figure, etc. So we just want to talk about family, business, basketball. We want to talk about the NBL landscape as it is now, and kind of obviously how that championship finished up this year. So if we start with this NBL season first, and before all this started, like when the NBA Stars program came in and Melo rocked on the scene, someone who's just first year out, how did you look at all that, and what have you got to shed light on that subject?
Yeah, it's I look at it from the league. I look at it as it's obviously a huge benefit. You get the eyes across the globe looking at it. Social media was going bonkers. You had young kids that may have never been really a fan of the NBL and just a fan of the NBA, obviously casting their eyes on it. I'll be honest and say I was a bit of a skeptic in terms of that regard. With what was his goal in mind. He's a young kid, 18 years old. I'd argue he wanted to come out here and go, hey, if I win an NBL championship, that's going to be a career highlight. His obviously aspirations were to increase his draft stock, and credit to him. And to be honest, I look at it and go, even if you brought in a bona fide superstar, I didn't even have him in there. Obviously the injury to Aaron Brooks, to Illawarra, hurt them significantly. But to be honest, I felt like it was a good thing for them. I don't think they were going to be a championship contender anyway. Cairns obviously were really special in that regard, getting 3 quality imports, but being a regional team, you're always going to struggle. And I thought, yeah, why not take a punt? Unfortunately, it hurt them in the long run, him getting injured. Then they really had no one. Like they gave him the keys to the city, and as soon as he was done, they just sort of fell to pieces. But it was exciting. Like, don't get me wrong, just like I had a general buzz. Like, credit to him. I mean, back-to-back triple doubles. The first one was that game was legit. Like, I looked at it as a fan and thought, like, yeah, he single-handedly brought him across the line. The one against New Zealand, he was chasing numbers. But hey, like, I mean, when you're talking not cents, millions of dollars, you're doing everything in your part to do that. And credit to him. The RJ Hampton one was a bit of a weird situation because for me, like, I looked at the results and I did think they're a playoff contender. And as soon as he sort of leaves, Zeke Henry and Abercrombie, and obviously bringing back name is missing at the moment, but yeah, it comes back into the fold after the injury. They were Hobson. Like, they were actually playoff contenders, and give them a game or two, they could actually have maybe given a tilt for the championship. And I think you saw that. That was a correlation. RJ Hampton at the start of the year, and they obviously had a lot of injuries, but not playing many minutes, or his role sort of lessened. So it's an interesting pathway they're going to go with. Like, I think there's only a set few amount of teams. Like, I look at it, and you got to look at the roles that you're given and whether you can contribute. I look at a guy, Josh Giddey, that signed at Adelaide. Like, I feel like that's a good situation. Like, they're rebuilding. They need, after what's happened off the court and the whole question about the culture, bring some excitement. Let him grow, let him do it. He might not even make the NBA initially, and he stayed there for 2 years. And bringing a guy like LaMelo to Wildcats wouldn't work. You've already got superstars and Bryce, and you've got point guards like Damo and Nordo. And the only position that you might try and get there at the start of the season was obviously Dario Hunt. But you get Plumlee, like, they're stacked. So I think, that's where that next stars. Like, obviously King going to Cairns again, like, it's a good thing. But again, Cairns are on the rise. So, like, if you bring in those 3 imports, can come back. And I thought Deng obviously elevated his game, and quite Noi obviously a healthy season. So, it's an interesting thing. It's, and I think it comes to that point sooner or later that league's going to be prestigious enough. There's going to be enough high reputation. You don't need the gimmicks. You don't need to worry about that. Like, just for that college sort of approach, like that one and done. I don't think you will need it. And if you, at the end of the day, you're judged on wins or losses, not on social media likes. And so 100%. That's how you're going to be defined. And that's what's going to have to take priority sooner than later.
Yeah. So I did have a question about whether you still actively watched it, but it's clear that you have definitely been actively watching it. Yeah,
it can help, mate. Obviously it's consumed my whole life. No doubt it was tough at times. But to be honest, with what was going on so much in my life, the only time I really started missing the competitive side and missing that was the finals, and knowing, that's why you always play. That's why you do off-season, pre-season work, to have a chance to compete for a championship. So you obviously miss the brotherhood, and lucky enough, I still talk to all the guys daily. So it's sort of, you don't miss that sort of side to it. But no, obviously a fan of basketball, and it's always good to know, like I'm a fan of sports actually in general. And so those storylines and to see those guys go back to back is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. We have to have a discussion about it, how the championship was awarded. Not being biased about it all, how do you see it, and do you think it was appropriate? Myself, I say it is.
Yeah, look, I think in the end, I'd always said this, and unfortunately got some backlash initially. I think it's obviously a tough decision, and I don't think the negativity surrounding Sydney's decision is deserved. At that time, they've obviously made that decision based on well-being. There's a lot of parameters. Like, not once do I think, were they running scared? Like, you're professional athletes. Like, professional athletes are wired in a different way. You can't tell me irrespective that Casper went 1 from 27, he didn't want another game to redeem himself. Like not one of part of me goes, oh, they were scared. So look, I think the circumstances, and obviously it again, like fast forward that decision, we're not even talking about now. Borders are closed, and so come that decision. I think obviously Sydney tried to force NBL's hand, and it would have been different for me. Look, just because of the way it finished up, and they withdrew, and there was no real government enforcement. Like they didn't have any restrictions. So in essence, you could still play a game. So look, I think the decision's comfortable in the end. Do I agree with it? Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's obviously going to be question marks. Is there an asterisk? No, I don't think so. I mean, they won. I just think the whole way, and hindsight's an incredible thing, could have been handled extremely better, so that we're not even having these discussions whether the championship's legitimate or not. It would have been good on Thursday or Friday, irrespective of home fans or not. The NBL saying, we know and we don't know what this landscape is doing. It's evolving, escalating at a ridiculous rate. What we do know is we're going to have the opportunity to play a game on Friday and a game on Sunday. It's a best of 3. Now, if we have the opportunity to play Friday and Sunday the following week, sure, it's a best of 5. But if you guys don't feel safe or secure on flying, and just said that. And, I know both owners or CEOs and power and the movers and shakers in their organisations, they want their advantage for their club. So, but that's where the NBL says, this is it. If you're not happy with it, withdraw. And then, unfortunately, we have to award the title. But I think, again, a learning lesson. No one expected that to happen, but again, that's what you need. Leadership and said, this is it. Some people aren't going to be happy, but I think if they had set that tone and said best of 3, whoever's leading, cool. And then if we can play, sure, we can play it out. But it's unfortunate how it all finished up. And to add that, I talk about that. That's a hollow feeling for athletes, across the world. I think even that I've spoken about that. I'm not sure if you have, but that's mental health in athletes, Olympians. It's a crazy feeling, right? Like an athlete wants an outcome. There's that, irrespective, at the end of the season, you get a result. If you don't finish playoff, you finish on a win or a loss, or you don't win a championship, right? Only one team finishes and gets a championship. No one really got that feeling. Like no one really knows, like at the end of the day, they obviously warranted it. And those guys, speaking to them, they deserve it. But all these people right now are just like, where to right now? Like, what is going on, And that's a weird feeling, for an athlete. Like, I know when I won my championship, cool, I had a chance to reflect, enjoy it, celebrate, and then it was the next step. When you lose, reflect, and start putting the things to get better, But right now, it's just like, it's up in the air. It's bizarre.
So next subject, retirement. How's retirement going? Obviously, you couldn't stay off the court. You went to the 3-on-3 stuff. And how are you finding that now, and what keeps you busy? We're going to obviously link that in with family as well, and your stitching time too.
Yeah, man. I mean, to be honest, retirement's been seamless. I love the game. Obviously, hence why I still play 3-on-3 and why I play SBL and still involved in a lot of different capacities and getting increasingly more involved. But for me, it was just the right time. I felt like I was giving more to the game emotionally than what I could get out of it. I'm an emotional guy in terms of the effort levels, and I love that component of getting to the gym, 45 minutes before you're supposed to, and get through your routines, and then getting up upstairs and watching film and doing the extra stuff, and then spending an hour, 45 minutes to an hour on the court, just having that one-on-one time. And obviously with that, I had accomplished so much. I ended up winning 4th championship, but when I was deliberating and thinking where I'd been at my career, for me, I was more not. Obviously had a desire to win that last championship, but I was content in knowing that I'd done everything I could do to get the best out of myself. But I unfortunately wasn't getting what I wanted out of the game. Like I was sort of losing that love in a way. You know, obviously I could play that role. I was given that contract, and Trev asked me 2 weeks after I retired whether I would reconsider, you know, at times. And for me, I could play that 3, 4, 8 minute, 10 minute. I wanted more. And so, yeah, so I guess it was just that time where I was like, yep, I'm ready to move on, and I'm more than comfortable with that decision. I'm a massive believer things happen for a reason. And it was like I ended up having the chance to represent Australia at the 3-on-3 level, go to World Cup in Amsterdam, win a gold medal at the Asia Cup, and then have travelled since then to, you know, Philippines, China, like doing all that sort of stuff. I had the opportunity to go to Japan, Mongolia, like all these places, that Puerto Rico, that, you know, we never would have even in my wildest dreams even contemplated going there on a holiday, and I'm doing it for basketball. So, yeah, look, and as you know, right, it takes you on around the world. You meet some fantastic people. So, yeah, look, retirement's been good. I mean, it was funny, like, I've been so busy with my own endeavours and moving on to that next phase of my life. Like, to be honest, when they say, like, you enter the real world, being a professional athlete is the real world, right? Like, you might even work more than the general 9-to-5 person does. And so that gives you a pretty good, you know, understanding of what you need to do and commitment-wise, doing all that sort of stuff. Like, to be honest, I was more exhausted sitting at an office desk for the first couple of weeks than on the basketball. That's been the hardest adjustment, getting into a routine that is best accommodating for me and obviously the family. And but yeah, no, it's been a fun ride, and I've enjoyed that element, and even bringing elements of it being in a professional sporting environment to a local government job. So it's been good.
And then obviously in that retirement, like, something that I definitely want to through the podcast talk about is definitely family and that value, and being away with basketball the whole time, you're probably seeing more family time now than you ever have. How's that been, connecting with them, and how do you manage it as well with your side projects and business and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, family's the world, right? Like, I mean, I obviously just saw your post today about your son, and it is like, it's your motivation. I think any dad, parent, dad, mum, parent, yeah, like you can't explain that connection, that love. Like, it's, you know, that joy that they have. Like, you can have the worst of days, you know, have the absolute stress going through your mind, and then you see them and a little bit of laughter, or, you know, some of the, obviously now both of them are speaking. Their grammar's increasing, so their vocab's improved, and just some of the things that you said is just sort of cool. And so I think, you know, when you're consumed as a professional athlete, you miss that, right? Like, you're training every single day, and you're worrying about what's happening on the weekend. Friday night comes, I get no sleep after a game because I'm just too wired up. I get up in the morning, I might be leaving to the airport 2 hours later, and so I think some of those things that you know, and then obviously, like, as soon as I'm had a day off, it's like you're pretty much trying to fit in everything that you've missed for the last week or two being on the road into one day. So you go into the zoo, and then you're like, oh, I'll just do this. Whereas now I can just be patient, you know, like, I can hang out, I can go jump on a trampoline, I can see him ride on his bike, I can, you know, make him breakfast, and, you know, and then that's those things that, unfortunately, like some of the professional athletes, like my teammates, you know, Jesse Wagstaff and his daughter and my son go to the same pre-kindy, and I had the ability to drop him off, you know, weekly. That was a cool thing, just to take him on his first day, you know, and then do all that sort of stuff, which these athletes unfortunately miss. And so, yeah, that's those things that, you know, I obviously now cherish, knowing that I retired, and I can appreciate that, and I would have missed it, you know. And so, yeah, I think that's it. And, you know, this is a reason, you know, I ask this, and you'll see it all the time, but when someone asks me, like, your motivation, it's your why. And that was, like, as soon as, you know, like, I had a really tough upbringing growing up. And so that was obviously a big part of it. And so I try and be that role model for my kids now. And that was my why, like, knowing that I could leave a legacy that far transcends on the court once I retire, and now obviously off the court, that I would be proud of. as my my children. And so that's always that motivation. It's, the days where you're like, I've got to write a report, or I've got to apply for a grant, or I'm going to go do a conference or do this. Like, in the back of your mind, it's to make their lives better and for them to be proud of me. And irrespective of my daughter's about to turn 2, she wouldn't know what's going on, but I know long standing, it'll definitely count.
Yeah. Oh, so pretty similar age then, your girl and my little boy.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is I just want to delve into the stitching time and mental health stuff and just relate it back to a couple of things. Regardless of what's going on now, I guess how you would have spoke about it, just with everyday issues and in sport, out of sport, what you do with the charity as well, and sum that up and then just link that into today, what we're facing too.
Yeah, so I mean, it was launched in 2016, and so basically, like, back then, like, it was basically I wanted to raise money for another organisation, and my profile grew within the Wildcats, and I saw it as an opportunity, and I was obviously becoming a bit more immersed in the space, and I guess becoming a bit more influential in that in the mental health community, and so it's grown significantly. And as that, I guess I just felt obliged to try and grow with it, and to try and put, whether that's my position in the community or my networks, to the best way I can. And one thing I know is mental health isn't like, it doesn't discriminate, right? Like, just because I'm a professional athlete or a guy that's driving a bus or whatever, like, we do struggle. Yes, there's ways we deal with it in different ways. And mental health conditions aren't just depression, anxiety. Like, it's such a transcending thing. And like, for me, it's on so many different levels, and our education and awareness around mental health, the statistics, is obviously increased exponentially, but it is so far gone to, it's actually, I reckon, at a point where it's acceptable. And why I say that is, lives are lost to suicide every day. Like, 8 lives are lost. Now, for me, obviously, that's never going to be a zero number. Like, when I see a campaign, like, that's not going to happen. Like, that's unfortunate, but more lives are lost to suicide than road trauma, and so, but how much, the amount of money that is spent on road trauma compared to that, so, like, those sort of things. And even the discussions that I've had, recently, like, in terms of stigma, like, if I was, a perfect exercise I love to do, and I did it when I was acknowledged at a function, and I asked everyone to put up their hand to say, have you suffered an injury? I'm talking about torn muscle, rolled ankle, whatever it may be, or if you have the flu, or you've been cold. Have you ever had that? And people raise their hands, like, the whole room raises their hands, right? Without hesitation, and refine that question and say, is anyone in this room suffering from a mental health condition? And there's apprehension. Like, people, I would argue every single person that, in that room that is suffering puts up their hand because they actually are wondering if their peer even knows, or their parent knows, or their boss knows. So yeah, look, I think we've still got such a significant way, especially in the athlete space. Unfortunately, we see it more obviously prominent in AFL circles. An athlete comes out and says, I struggle from a mental health condition, and the first thing people say is, no, they're on drugs. Yeah, so look, I think we've obviously got to do that. For me, I guess, irrespective of the coronavirus or what's going on, my things, what I always leave on is 2 things. And why, like, why do people spend so much time, effort, and money into their physical health, right? And to look good, to feel good, at the end of the day, is to live longer, right? And what I've learned in my career, and to perform at the best level, right? I can't be 50 kgs overweight to be at a high level. But what I learned is, if you want to live longer, which ultimately is the goal, why people spend the same amount of time and effort and money into their physical health, they need to spend actually more and all the same as into their mental health. Because whenever I could have been in the best nick of my life, if I didn't have what was going upstairs going right, I'd perform poorly. Whether I was feeling low, confident, nervous, anxious, whatever it may be. And so that's my thing, is like, we spend so much time, even at a professional sporting club, in the gym, an hour and a half, but how many, like, never once we'd implement some stuff, but mindfulness training, resilience training, whatever it may be. And so we put it to the side, and it's those times now, right, where so much people are like, oh, like you're seeing webinars or people playing emphasis, and it's like, yeah, well and good to be doing that, but we would have been in a way better position if we placed the priority on this sort of stuff now. You don't need to be struggling with a mental health condition to be training your mind, and to better yourself. So that's the one biggest thing for me. And then the other side is everyone has the ability to change a life or even save a life. Why I say that? Everyone has the ability to have a conversation and listen and not judge, right? And that's the biggest thing, is listening and not judging. So many times I say this, like, women do it amazingly. Like, I'm sure you can testify this. My wife, like, with her friends, they talk for an hour. Like, if she's got something wrong with me, she'll tell me, and we'll be talking for 45 minutes. What do guys do? They don't talk. They don't communicate. We don't open up, and that's so many times when someone's struggling with a mental health condition, they just want to speak. They don't want to be told anything. It's the worst thing they want. They just want to be heard. They want to know that someone's taking care of them, So that's my biggest thing, like, you don't need to be a psychologist. You don't need a degree. Yeah, at some point you do need some mental health education, literacy, and hey, if someone says, I'm struggling, I need help, well, who do I refer them to? Refer them, Lifeline, Beyond Blue, Crisis Care, all that sort of stuff, but that's my two things that I always try and say when I go into a school and all that sort of stuff. And again, we place so much emphasis around that, and we see it more and more in mental health in professional sports, and obviously you see advocates, but it's got to evolve, and it's good that we're talking about it more. But now it's that side where awareness is high, education is still low, and it's got to come together.
Yeah. Hopefully that's, I guess, what your endeavour is, and that's just going to continue to get out that education. And if other people can get around that and help, I'd be proud as a community person myself. So if there's anything I can do with that too, I'll definitely be around.
For sure, bro.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess, like, for me, it was give some insight into the life of Greg Hire post basketball, and I knew you were going to drop some dimes about the mental health stuff, so that's been cool.
For sure.
If people have got if they hear this for the first time and have some problems and wanted to reach out, where should they go to on that, just as we wrap this up?
Mate, like, I'm an open book, and so, like, people can hit me up. I mean, sometimes I won't get back to them straight away, but for me, mentoring's been a massive part of my life, and I want to finish that as well, especially in this sort of crisis. Is like, use this as an opportunity to grow. I see, we are unfortunately in a really tough time, and negativity is obviously outweighing the positives, like, for everyone, and rightfully so. You've got to accept that and have your days where you just sit there and go, yeah, it's just not a good day. But for me, like, and I've seen this, like, refine what you do, like, use it as an opportunity. Like, if there's an athlete that unfortunately can't get to the gym, or is working out with you one-on-one every single day, like, what stops them to do ball handling for an hour? What stops them to, like, do the amount of body weight workouts they can do in the world? Like, yeah, they might lose their touch. A basketball player never loses that. They get that touch pretty quick. But there's a lot of things that we forget about, and I think, in this time, like, this is actually a good time in a way. Like, we get to reset. We're not forced to do all the things that we're required to do. There's so many things that I put away to the side because I can't facilitate that. Like, I've got a hard job, I've got family, all this sort of stuff. And at this point, I'm like, you know what? I've got some things I really want to take care of. Like, I'm going to read that book that I've put off for some time, but now at least I'm at home and I'm stress free. You know, like obviously, and don't get me wrong, financial stress is obviously a big thing, but you know, for the young kids, like that's huge. Like use this, you know, like to do something that they don't. They've got more time that they're going to be by themselves than they ever have.
That's right.
They're not going to have the opportunity to go hang out with mates. You're going to be forced to it. And if you don't get better, you're going to look at this as one of the biggest regrets in your life that you didn't better yourself during something that you rightfully had all the time in the world. So yeah, look, I think that's, you know, if there's one thing from this whole pandemic, whatever it is, like, yeah, is to use this as an opportunity to grow. Look, start getting into mindfulness training, you know, like reach out to you, get some guidance, like, hey, what made you successful? What made you tick? Like reach out to, you know, it's amazing. Send out 500 Instagram messages to an NBA athlete and hope one writes back, you know, like why not? Embrace failure, like do that sort of stuff. So yeah, that would be my last sort of thing. I know you were sort of wrapping up, but use this as an opportunity to grow because the perfect platform.
Yeah, no, I know we could talk all night, but I think we've done a good job of at least, you know, giving some advice out there. And
for sure.
Thanks heaps for spending your time. I know you're a busy man and you've just come straight off the back of family, but thank you very much. And thanks for keep doing what you do for the community, man.
Appreciate it, brother. Thanks for the opportunity. And yeah, and once things go back to normality, we'll finally get it done in the studio.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, mate.
All right.
Catch you, Greg.
Yeah.
So, if Greg sees this back, thanks again, Greg. Great conversation. For those that tune in, watch it to the end. That's the first thing. We speak about, you know, basketball early on, but obviously that leads to stuff a lot more significant, being the health of our mind. We didn't get deep into it. That's another day when we can actually meet in the studio. I guess today was special circumstances given that the coronavirus is around and we had to use Zoom app as a way to talk and present to you guys. But yeah, I appreciate Greg for doing that, and I know he's got a lot of people that, you know, admire him and follow him, so this is your chance to listen to him and, you know, post-winning championships, what he's gone and done and how he's coped with that and what he's doing now. And I think anyone that goes into mental health, regardless, is doing something amazing. Yeah. But in terms of first episode, I'm looking forward to the next 9. This is just the beginning. I think I just learned a lot in that first episode that's going to come straight through to the second one. Can't wait for that to come into place. We're going to go back, edit this, you know, run through how we did it, what could have done better, like anything. I could have studied all day. I could have written a million notes on it, but it was get on, have a conversation, record it, and then from there we just get better. But yeah, I'm excited about this podcast finally happening. I think I put this together 3 months ago, and if it weren't for the coronavirus, we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. Would probably be Thursday night. I would just be driving home now, locking up. It's a funny thing. So to add to what Greg said, turn every negative into a positive. I don't care what it is, why it is. Turn every negative into a positive. Okay, so whatever it is, the hardship you got now, there is a way to look at it positively, and there is action you can take to drag you out of that. I promise you. You just got to be creative. You've got to be able to see outside of your circumstances and just keep faith, man. It's simple. If you're struggling with any of that, I'm very good at getting back to people, so hit me up. I'll message you back, and if there's anything I can do, I definitely will. If not me, all of my guys, my teammates. So appreciate you for tuning in. If you're still watching now, I owe you one. All right, peace.